Born in 1952 in Bamila, Khanaqin, Leyla Qasim, bride of Kurdistan, went on to study sociology at the University of Baghdad's College of Humanities and became an active member of the Kurdistan Students Union. A member of the Kurdistan Democratic Party and a student at Baghdad University, she belonged to a secret underground cell working in Baghdad. The undercover KDP unit's role, according to one member of the group, was to make people in Baghdad aware there was a war going on up north. For her role in the 1974 Kurdish uprising, Leyla was placed under arrest and sentenced to death. Her execution on May 12 that year was picked up by the world's media and caused international outrage. She joined the Kurdish Student Union as a student at Baghdad University in the early 1970s. The Iraqi government had fought a running war against Kurdish throughout the 1960s, resolved only by a tenuous truce. By the spring of 1974, armed conflict began again. Leyla and 4 male companions were arrested in late April, accused of plotting against Iraq. They were tortured, condemned in a televised trial, and executed together. She purportedly gave her family the last words of a proper martyr. Proud of her Kurdish identity to the end, Leyla went to the gallows wearing in a traditional dress. For this reason, Leyla is known as the Bride of Kurdistan. Over 4 decades ago, Leyla Qasim's final request was for a set of Kurdish clothes to be delivered to her prison cell, so she could wear the outfit and be the Bride of Kurdistan at her death. On May 12, 1974, the 22-year-old activist was the first woman to be executed in Iraq's history. Kurds around the world and inside Iraq commemorate Qasim every year on the anniversary of her execution. A remarkable female figure in Kurdish history, she was hanged along with 4 comrades at the hands of the Ba'athist regime. From an early age, she was exposed to Kurdish patriotism and political activism, and later joined the Kurdistan Students Union and the Kurdistan Democratic Party. She was a staunch advocate and fighter for Kurdish political and cultural rights, which had been eroded under consecutive repressive Iraqi regimes. Before her arrest on trumped-up charges, she was working underground, mobilizing Kurdish revolutionary youth. A student of sociology at the University of Baghdad, Qasim worked along with her male comrades in the Iraqi capital until their arrest in the mid-1970s. In 1970, Kurdish revolutionary leadership, headed by General Mustafa Barzani, signed a peace accord with the then Iraqi government that recognized Kurdish basic political and cultural rights. Under the agreement, the Kurds were granted political autonomy as well as the right to practice their culture, including studying in the Kurdish language. The accord produced a relative peace between the Kurds and Iraqi authorities for 4 years before the Ba'athists withdrew, leading a new round of clashes between Kurdish and Iraqi forces now known as the Second Iraqi-Kurdish War. Soon after the conflict erupted, the Kurdish revolutionary movement was decimated following the signing of 1975 Algiers Agreement between Iraq and Iran to resolve the neighbors' outstanding issues. The Iranian monarchy withdrew its support for the Kurdish resistance, resulting in the collapse of Kurdish September Revolution. The Ba'athists, after the agreement with Tehran, began to rule Iraq with an iron fist and cracked down on the Kurdish revolutionary elements across the country. Qasim and her friends were arrested and tortured by Iraqi authorities and held in the notorious Abu Ghraib prison, west of the capital. They stayed behind bars for only a week before they were collectively executed on charges of sabotage and terrorism, typical charges for those standing against the regime. When Qasim's mother paid a visit to her daughter for what would be their last meeting, the soon-to-be executed activist made her final request, the set of traditional Kurdish clothes. On the morning of May 12, 1974, the 5 political activists, including the Bride of Kurdistan, were executed by the regime's men in Baghdad. Along with Qasim, Azizulman Miran, Hassan Hamarashid, Jawad Hamawandi, and Nariman Fuad Masti were all killed that day. The executions immediately sparked outrage both locally and internationally as they exposed the regime's dictatorial tendencies. Leyla Qasim died at a time when Kurds in northern Iraq were in armed revolt against the Iraqi regime. Her name continues to inspire compatriots involved with the Kurdish struggle for statehood, no matter what their party political allegiances are. Leyla came from a very patriotic Kurdish family who supported the KDP led by Mullah Mustafa Barzani. She grew up in Khanaqin, northeast of Baghdad, and was a star pupil at the local school. She always saw herself as a Kurdish nationalist, and even as a young girl wanted to see the Kurdish flag hoisted in her hometown instead of that of Iraq. When the police came to arrest her, she calmly ordered the secret police to wait outside her bedroom as she got dressed. She told her family at the time, "They want me because I'm a Kurd." Visited by her mother and father, she broke the news of her impending execution, and also revealed she had been visited by the Iraqi government's then second-in-command, Saddam Hussein. She said Saddam had offered to let her study abroad if she would renounce the Kurdish cause. "I am a proud Kurd and will remain so to my grave," she reportedly told him. By rejecting his offer, she faced certain death. At Abu Ghraib, her mother heard friends urging her to try and get the sentence commuted because she was a woman. "I am not frightened although I am a girl," she replied. "I want to be the first of us to be executed." Leyla Qasim was hanged a few hours after her parents left the prison. On the way to the gallows, she is reputed to have sung the Kurdish national anthem, Irachib. Leyla's body was returned to her family next day with her eyes gouged out. Permission for a funeral was refused and she was finally buried in Najaf. Thank you for Today's video is sponsored by Nobility.co.uk, the leading company in selling legal titles in the United Kingdom. Get a 10% discount in any purchase by mentioning Death Row.
Here in the UK, there are 2 types of titles. Firstly, there are peerages, which are granted by the Queen. These are not allowed to be sold. Secondly, there are manorial feudal titles. These were once based on land ownership. However, since 1925, titles have been separate from the land itself, with the introduction of the Law of Property Act 1925. Here is the UK government website showing what titles are legal. Manorial feudal titles are regarded as inheritable property, which any nationality worldwide can purchase. Companies selling seated titles or titles with tiny plots of land whilst sounding good are in fact by law novelty souvenirs, not real, genuine titles. Legally approved by UK trading standards, barristers and a UK law lord, no other company has a law lord ruling, 100% legal and proper. You can add your title to passports, bank cards, etc. Even American and Canadian citizens can add the title to their passports on the observation page. All UK and foreign titles have passed 12 legal security checks before offering them for sale. Buy with confidence from the #1 title broker in the world, established 1996. Compliant with Privacy Data Protection Act 2018, the Honours Prevention and Abuses Act and Law of Property Act 1925. All processed through UK solicitors. Strictly private and confidential.